Late winter, early spring can be a great time for assessing and taking stock of your bonsai trees. It's a good time for making a plan and deciding how you're going to take those trees forward in the coming growing season. Sometimes to develop our bonsai trees, we take dramatic or drastic action that can sometimes seem counterintuitive, but can result in some great trees. This silver birch has beautiful white bark, but underwent some drastic changes last year due to dieback. This silver birch was a multi-stemmed tree, but unfortunately the second stem, which was growing up here, died off last year, and so I trimmed that away. This second tree is a really lovely twin trunk silver birch, and you see it's got lovely white bark on it. However, I think of the three trees, this is probably the least healthy. And in fact, this half of the tree has died. And so I will soon need to remove that. And also, I still need to get it out of this soil and into some better draining and perhaps more healthy soil that will help promote root growth on here. So what was potentially a parent and child, mother-daughter, two-trunk silver birch is almost certainly going to have to now be just a single trunk tree. You can see it's got lots of healthy shoots forming low down, and in fact it would be a possibility to do perhaps an air layer or a severe trunk chop on there. And silver birch is notorious for losing branches, but at least this half of the tree is alive, and I need to make some decisions about what I'm going to do with this. This tree was a twin trunk mother and child tree. Unfortunately, this trunk died off, which birch do have a tendency to do. So it's left me with this single trunk, and I've got suckers developing on the bottom here which I need to remove, and I also might reduce this stump down now. These suckers are of no value and they're just depleting the energy of the tree, and that's why there's the need to get rid of them. This stump is also quite ugly, so I'm going to try and reduce that down so that we've got a smoother trunk line here without this bulge coming out the side. So I'm going to try and nibble this away. Okay, so I'm trying to get the trunk line to be flush all the way down. What I will do is get some cut paste on there. I'm not necessarily expecting this to give me any benefits other than the fact that the cut paste will dry darker and cover up some of this wound and make it less obvious. And the stuff is quite horrible, it'll be all over my fingers. So that's removed the unsightly stump that was protruding from the base of the tree there. I just nibbled away at another little stump further up the tree here where there was a branch which I removed, which was dead. So I'm just going to get a little bit of cut paste on there as well. You can see here that what I've got left from what was initially a twin trunk tree is this single very white bark trunk which splits at this point. What I'm really hoping to do is, once I've got some foliage developed on this tree, to get it to back bud further down so I can reduce that further. There's also still the possibility that I could do a trunk chop on this next year and get some kind of growth coming out of this trunk. The great prize on this tree is this very, very remarkably white bark on here. As it is, it's a bit of a featureless tree. It's now time to reassess it and make decisions. I love the smaller trees and see this as a small tree, which means only one thing. A major trunk chop to reduce the height of these long straight sections and to completely rebuild the branching and canopy. This trunk chop might seem very severe, but it's a little bit of bonsai alchemy which you can carry out on deciduous trees at this time of year. This might look like a very severe thing to do to your trees, but I do know from experience it's a great way to create a smaller tree with pronounced taper and to rebuild the canopy.
In winter, all the energy of a tree, all the stored sugars and starches, are held within the trunk and the upper portions of the roots, and in spring all that energy rushes back up the tree, out along the branches, and forces the buds to start opening and to produce leaves. By performing a severe cut or radical trunk chop in early spring, that forces the stored energy, when it rushes back up the tree, to start forming new branches and buds at the cut site. And that's exactly what I've done with the tree here.
It was effectively a featureless stump, but that energy rushing up the tree caused it to put out new buds and new branches, and that is what has enabled me to develop the branching on the tree and to create the bonsai in training that you see in front of you now. So this is the tree that was self-seeded into a flower bed in my front garden. And I performed quite a severe trunk chop on it several months ago, and it was just literally a featureless stump, and you can see now that it has a mass of branches and foliage on there, which will give me multiple options when it comes to actually styling this tree. And it's a dramatic example that you can remove the branches and the canopy on a tree and regrow that branching from scratch in just a number of seasons. Don't be afraid to change your plan or direction with the design of your bonsai trees. They're living, growing works of art, so adapt your plans accordingly and to work with what the tree gives you. And remember that we're planning not just for this year, but building a foundation for future years of development. This technique can be used with great success on deciduous trees to help create a smaller tree with a more pronounced taper and to create new canopy and branching on the tree. However, do not try this technique on evergreen trees. If you perform a severe trunk chop on an evergreen tree, a pine or a juniper, and remove all of the foliage, all you'll do is succeed in killing the tree. If you'd like to see how this tree progresses over the coming growing season, then be sure to subscribe for updates. If you'd like to see 7 years of essential bonsai knowledge distilled into one video, then you should check out this video next.